Well, there's certainly no getting around this, but when you say someone is advocating eating their own placenta, it certainly has some shock value, at least it did in our newsroom, but once you get past that, Jodi Selander claims it might actually help new moms avoid postpartum depression. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
I want to talk, first of all, about your personal experience with this.
Okay. Well, with my first daughter, I had some issues with depression, and so my doctor had me on antidepressants. And then with my second daughter, I had heard about eating the placenta, which I wasn't terribly comfortable with, but...
well, especially at first, because it does sound so shocking.
It is very shocking to hear. And what I did was I learned that you could dry the placenta, grind it, and put it into capsules. So I thought, well, I can take anything in a capsule, and I tried it, and I felt a lot better emotionally. I was well balanced. I had a lot of energy. And, you know, with trying to keep up with a toddler at that time, I could not believe how good it made me feel.
Okay, and we're going to get to some of this in a moment, but just to give you a little bit of history here, this actually dates back, to the 1970s, and it was, well, even further than that, but some of the more recent studies is that it dates back to the 1970s. It was a practice that was commonly used in communes because a lot of folks thought, well, gosh, this actually works. There are some critics, and we'll get to that part as well, because the placenta is so often thrown out right after birth.
Yes.
And so you have to know this right up front. It's not that big, so when you're talking about grinding it and then taking it, pretty interesting.
Right. Well, there was a bit of the hippie revival during the 70s.
This is what I'm talking about with the communes.
Going back to nature. And so that is where we first start to see about, in like the modern written record.
In National Geographic, that they talk about it happening in ancient times.
Well, exactly. There's a lot of rituals and practices that have developed with the use of placenta. Most cultures don't just throw it in the trash like we do here. Most cultures have very beautiful and ceremonial rituals to take care of the placenta once it's born. And they honor the connection it has to the baby and things like that. And so the National Geographic is definitely pointing out you know, particular phrases and words and things that are linked very far back to placenta and ritual use and things like that.
Okay, so let's get back to the differences between, I mean, you're someone who's been through this. The differences between taking postpartum depression pills, antidepressants, and the placenta. Okay. Right. What were the distinct differences in the way you felt?
Well, obviously, antidepressant medication is for disorders where a woman definitely needs prescription medication and chemical imbalances in the brain and things like that. With the placenta, and what I advocate it's used for is really those first few weeks after a mother has had her baby. Her body is in a huge mode of transition. It's a huge fluctuation, and the placenta can be there to because the placenta contains all of those hormones and nutrients and things that the baby needed and that kind of drove the pregnancy. Once the placenta is born, it still contains all of those nutrients while it's missing from the mother. So the theory is that it just makes sense to put that back into her, helps maintain the balance, and helps get her through those first few weeks that a lot of moms struggle with, the baby blues, weepiness, mood swings, ups and downs, and things like that.
You don't feel like yourself.
No, you don't.
Your body has been taken over.
Right? And you're sleep deprived and you know, things like that. So the placenta is really good for easing that transition. Now, it's not going to be a replacement for a mom who has clinical postpartum depression and things like that. But it definitely helps.
It's an option.
It is an option to help moms fend off a lot of the risk factors.
All right, Jodi, thank you very much. We're going to put more information about this potential option if you're interested in it on our hotline. And we do appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet.